Today is December 8, 2025. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, today's topic zeroes in on the dirty business of politics. So forgive me, but let's get going here. Next year is the all-important midterm election. And the GOP is looking at great challenges if they want to retain control of the House. We all have known for the last 100 years or so that in off-year midterm elections, the party in power, the party that controls the White House, loses seats. Almost all the time it happens. And I want to just take a look at a few of those losses. In 2010, with Barack Obama, his first midterm, that was the year of the rise of the Tea Party. Those guys in those Revolutionary War outfits. We remember that. The Democrats lost 63 House seats, and they lost hundreds of seats down ballot all across the country. I want to say they lost like 700 seats nationwide in state and local elections. You've got to go back to 1938 with Franklin Roosevelt to see another House midterm election go that badly for the party in power. The Democrats in 1938 lost 81 seats. I mean, they still controlled the House because they were, it was crazy how few Republican congressmen there were during that Depression era period. The Democrats controlled everything in the 1930s. Okay. Other memorable losses: 1974, in the aftermath of Watergate and the pardon of Richard Nixon by Gerald Ford, Republicans lost 48 seats. 1994, that was the year of the contract with America with Newt Gingrich. Republicans beat the Democrats, took control of the House for the first time since 1953, and the Democrats lost 52 House seats. 2006, the GOP lost 30 seats, primarily because of war fatigue. The years of fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, the voters were tired, and they wanted to punish the Republicans. 2018, more recent, Donald Trump's first midterm election, they lost 40 seats. And, Trump is a polarizing figure. And I'm sure, if I recall, 2018 was a referendum on Donald Trump. And voters voted accordingly. Since 1938 to 2022, there have been 22 midterm elections. And in 20 of those 22, the party that controls the White House lost seats in the House. They lost seats in the Senate as well, but the losses are more noticeable in House races, in the House of Representatives. So there were 20 losses out of 22, but only 2 gains, where the party that controlled the White House actually won seats in the off-year election in 1998 and in 2002. The 98 might have been dealing with the impeachment on Bill Clinton, and the voters didn't feel like he needed to be impeached, and they were going to punish the Republicans. But in 2002, the reason for the victory for the Republicans was more clear-cut, because after 9/11, the voters were very patriotic. We were fighting international terrorism, and we wanted to support George Bush, the party in power, fighting against terrorism. And they rewarded Republicans in 2002. Rare that the party in power gained seats in the off year, but it happened in 2002. Okay. So we're looking at the reality of 2026 And history is not kind to parties in power in off-year elections. So I'm not saying automatically that the Republicans are going to lose control of the House, but I think there's a very good chance. Now, they only control it by about 5 or 6 seats right now. So if they lose 10 seats, they've lost control of the House. So I'm not saying it will happen, but if history is any indication, there's a really good chance that the Republicans will lose control of the House. But if we can keep control of the Senate, to me, that's a bigger prize, because then we can continue to get pro-life or conservative judges to fill vacancies in the federal courts. And that's really important for the long-term effect of abortion policies. Okay. But besides the elections, there are other issues for the midterms, and that has to deal with statewide referendums that do deal with abortion. In 2023, Michigan's Proposal 3 didn't go our way. In 2024, in Ohio, the pro-lifers lost with Issue 1. Other states lost as well. It was a bad year for state referendums. The pro-abortion people latch onto a strategy to enshrine abortion rights through state ballot initiatives, state referendums. And this is going to continue down the road. And it's going to happen, at least initially here, in 26. And there are 7 states that are dealing with statewide referendums. And 2 of them have already been certified. The first one is in Missouri. In 2024, Missouri had a referendum, a pro-abortion referendum that passed. And now the Republicans, or the pro-lifers, are going to put a new amendment on the ballot to repeal the one that just passed last year. And Missouri is a pro-life state. The referendum, or the amendment, would prohibit abortion except for medical emergencies, fatal fetal anomalies, and cases of rape and incest within the first 12 weeks. So we'll see what happens. You have to do some compromises. I think some of these pure pro-life referendums didn't pass because the voters want some exceptions, maybe for rape and incest. We may not like it, but there's a certain reality and pragmatism that's involved in this. And if we want to save lives, we may have to do a little bit of compromising. Compromise can be a dirty word, but sometimes if you want to win, you have to do a little compromising. I know that's I struggle as a pro-lifer to say that. I do. Okay. The second state is, let me go back to Missouri. The reason they lost last year was, with the other referendum, is they were outspent 15-1. The pro-abortion people raised $30 million, and the pro-lifers raised $2 million. So if we want to win, we have to match them dollar for dollar. So Missourians dig deep and start donating to the pro-life side. Okay, the second state is in Nevada. They passed a referendum last year, but it required a second vote to embed the fundamental right to abortion in the state constitution until fetal viability. In Ohio, the reproductive freedom and privacy measure, so this is a pro-abortion measure, has cleared some hurdles in gathering signatures, but they need 71,000 signatures, and they've collected 50,000. So they're well on their way to get this thing on the ballot, which is bad. Nebraska has a pro-life referendum called Established Personhood of Preborn Children Amendment, led by a group called Choose Life Now. It would define a preborn child as a person in the state constitution, effectively banning abortion from conception with limited exceptions. Okay, in Oregon is not a conservative state. We all know that. They've got a signature deadline of July of 2026. Abortion advocates are circulating petitions to amend the Constitution by affirming a right to kill babies in abortions. I do not have high hopes for Oregon. I may have high hopes for Idaho and Nebraska. I do. And maybe even Missouri. But Oregon is a very liberal state. And Portland is the epicenter, I would say, almost, of liberal activism on the West Coast, even more than San Francisco. So we'll see what happens. But if pro-lifers in Oregon want to compete, they will have to raise plenty of money to fight these pro-abortion ads. And the last state is in Virginia, another pro-abortion referendum, the Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment. And actually, this one, according to the way I'm reading here, is not a referendum, but it's just a bill. It approved in its first legislative passage by Democrats in January 25, it advances toward a second vote in the 26th session to embed a right to reproductive freedom in the Constitution. This would allow abortions up to birth in the state. So it looks like these deal with legislative battles, not the issue going to the voters. And we just saw last month that in Virginia, the voters elected a pro-abortion new governor and a pro-abortion attorney general. So Virginia has become a very purple state. Historically, it had always been very conservative. Well, actually, if you wanted to say historically, it was a very democratic state during the Jim Crow era, when people in the South were all Democrats. They were all voting to segregate, movie theaters and schools and restaurants and all kind of establishments. But then that flipped, and Virginia and most of the South became very conservative, and now, primarily because of the suburbs of Washington D.C., the Virginia suburbs of D.C., they're all these government workers, they're all liberal, and that Northern Virginia swings the state Democratic, at least the last few election cycles. So that may not go our way either. But it's good to see that some pro-lifers have kind of latched onto what the pro-abortion people were doing about these referendums, and they're going to fight them on their own turf. Yeah. You may have passed a pro-abortion referendum to enshrine abortion rights, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to collect signatures, and we're going to pass pro-life referendums to embed or enshrine personhood status, or a ban on abortion from conception, or from a fetal heartbeat. So it's good to see the pro-lifers are being proactive. We're not just responding to the other side. We are engaging in taking the leadership and taking the battle to the enemy's camp, so to speak. And hopefully, if we can raise the money, we can blanket these conservative states with pro-life messages, and we can defeat the other side in their game. So we shall see. A lot will happen in this next year. A lot will happen just based on the economy. If the economy improves, if Trump can get a war between Ukraine and Russia end, that can do a lot on retaining control of the House in GOP hands. With that, I'll let you go. And I'll see you next time.